So, well, yeah. There was a post that talked about Will Ospreay got his 23rd 5-star match from Dave Meltzer. Cool statistic. He's two behind Misaru Misawa for 25 for the all-time lead. He's going to shatter this thing, make peace with it now. If you're someone that is like holding on to this sacred thing, like there's no one that's going to catch him. Like Kenny's not going to catch him. I don't think Okada's going to catch him at this rate. He's 5 years younger than Okada, I think, and a decade younger than Kenny, and those are the only people that are active that are on that tier. I want to say.
I think there's a chance where like Okada gets in front of him because of like his neck can go at any time. But
Barring
that's
injury.
yeah. Well,
Like
you can't say you Will Ospreay's not something you can say barring injury. Like that's like saying barring injury with Darby Allin. It's like no man, that's not no. This isn't something where like he's gonna have some 25-year career, and if he does, I will be there for all of it because there ain't no way. I will be in amazement like this fucking guy is in his this guy's Darby Allin's 45 and he's still doing this. I remember when I thought he was gonna be in a wheelchair at 30. So no, same thing with Ospreay. Like I just can't I can't see it. I can't see it.
like at this rate, he only has to. He's gonna own the record. Let's just say that. So
At some point, yeah.
Will
Imagine.
retweeted it, I think, and was like, "Hey, that's pretty cool." Da da da.
That's all he said.
I forgot. I think that's all he said, really. And
That's all he
then
said.
and then Kevin Nash jumps in the comments, and there was a different post that he replies to. Said Will Ospreay has more 5-star matches this month than like CM Punk, John Cena, and like Kurt Angle or something like that
Combined, yeah.
combined. And then Kevin Nash jumps in and it's like, how's his merchandise sales? And it's just like, you dumb motherfucker. Like me and Josh from Keeping It Strong Style have been having this discussion. I wouldn't say it's an argument. Like we've been having like this discussion over the last like I don't know a couple weeks where it's just like I'm very into that idea of fighting for good wrestling and good wrestlers and like and it's not so much necessarily about like drawing and who's the biggest draw and all this stuff to really rank greatness, right? I'm like, yeah, it's a piece of it, but like if we're only doing that, if the response to somebody is like, yo, this person's a very great wrestler and all this stuff, and to tear them down, it's immediately, well, they weren't this draw financially, they didn't do this. I'm like, well, we should just quit trying to analyze anything and just leave Hulk Hogan at number one, and then let's just like forget about all the great wrestling that we've seen over the last decade or so. Like I just find it as a reductive way to try to analyze, the greatness of like the current people hating, and then like it's very rich for Kevin Nash to start talking about merchandise sales and stuff like that when the Diesel Power shirts were not flying off the rack back in the day. They did all this stuff for Will Ospreay, and then Will Ospreay got piled on by like a bunch of people. Just
Everybody that was trying to find a reason to not like Dave Meltzer and Will Ospreay, besides the obvious reasons to not like either one of them, which is like, why don't you just stick to that?
Yeah, it's like the star ratings don't matter until they do. Will Ospreay's not this great until people start saying he's a great. Like he's going through, like he is the true successor, and this is how you know that Jay White stuff isn't really real, because they don't hate Jay White like this. The
Right.
person they hate, the person that is the threat, just like Kenny Omega was the threat outside WWE, the threat is Will Ospreay.
Rich, we talked about this when we had that thing about Gargano when he left. When it was like, when you have these people, like, I'm not saying like it's not warranted that these people aren't talented, because obviously, like, I think the world of Gargano, I think the world of Ospreay's work in the ring, same for Omega, same for the Young Bucks. But like, there is something to be said about like you are not on the main roster of WWE, and you are getting attention for reasons that people don't like. It has nothing to do with like this person is doing something terrible. It's like actually this person is doing like very great work, and like people are looking around and recognizing saying this person is awesome, and then people naturally are recalling, be like, well, I didn't see it,
Yep,
so
that's all
therefore,
it is.
and they da 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 da, and then they'll come up with whatever reason after that, right? Like it could, like, so for example, right? I hear all the time about Will Ospreay, his wrestling's too flippy and fake, and it's white guys doing lucha,
He's an
that this, that, and the
acrobat.
third. Right.
He's a fucking
Right. And then
gymnast,
right, and then
which implies femininity and all that
right.
stuff. Like,
yeah, and then in the same vein, they'll also be like, raise the goat. Well, what the fuck? Who do you? What? Like, I love Ray, but what are we doing? Like, the same thing with the Young Bucks. The Young Bucks, their fights, they don't like they can actually beat someone in a fight. Then you bring up Rey Mysterio, and then it's like, but raise the goat. then on the other end, then you mention someone, a Japanese wrestler, like you mentioned a Kabashi or Masawa, or you mentioned like Ishii or whatever else. Then it turns into or Naito or Ibushi. Then it turns into they're fucking hurting each other too hard. They're gonna kill each other.
which one?
Tell me how you want this porridge. You tell me what you want. Tell me how you want this just right ass porridge, Goldilocks. Be real. You just like I'm not knocking you for not watching this stuff or seeking it out or whatever else, but like a lot of people like this stuff. I don't know if people feel like they're being like condescended upon, but when they talk about like, oh, you like this, but how about this, that, and the third? It's like, and I'm sure there are a lot of people, snobs that do that because, right, like that happens, right? But like, it normally, like when I watch this stuff, it just comes out of just bitterness that like there's something that's going on outside of WWE that people are paying attention to, and like it's time to knock it down. I'm not saying that Nash meant to do this to feed to those people, but it was red meat nonetheless.
Yeah,
it was red meat nonetheless, right? Like, because I don't think Nash necessarily. I know he hates Meltzer, but I don't think he necessarily hates Will Ospreay, and he's always had this thing with Meltzer about like, how the fuck do you know some Match for Cork and Hall is this, that, and third? It's like because he was getting the tapes. He was getting the tapes, Kevin. he was distributing tapes of matches.
Network.
That's how he saw them. Yeah. But whatever. Like it's like when it came to the Nashing, like it doesn't bother me that Nash said this because it's like, okay, in one lens you see it as like
people saw it as
if this guy is so fucking great, then like why what the hell is going on to where like this dude isn't like making a bunch of money? How come he's fucking around not in the E or in AEW? Why is he in Japan or whatever else? Killing himself. I can see from the perspective of Kevin Nash, like him being like, how do I help, like try to maybe help this guy out or doing it in a funny way to kind of try to get his attention by throwing a jab at him. Like I don't think Kevin Nash is like really hurting for relevance or cares about that thing right now. Maybe I'm wrong, but people don't take that kind of thing to see it as dunk on him, fuck him. And I was like, I don't know what Ospreay did in this particular instance. Like I don't know what Dave Meltzer liking this one particular guy's match has to do with like you now hating that guy or disliking that guy in the ring. Like if you want to say I'm just not dealing with any of it, totally fine. I can. That's perfectly fine. But people aren't doing it. They're just saying like, he doesn't draw. It's like he doesn't. You think he doesn't draw? Like obviously we're not getting like the quarterly reports
sure this man's not
from newspaper wrestling, but I don't think they're like putting him out there and it's a net loss. I don't think that.
Yeah, this guy has his own faction. I'm sure this guy's well compensated. And then from there, it just like leaped into like people just falling on their knees to fillet Kevin Nash of all things, and then just talk about his ability to make money within wrestling. Like that's some like that's like the end all be all, right? And
good for him, but I don't want to watch that.
The smarts of Kevin Nash, and I think that's well documented. And
right.
That's great. But like when it comes to this wrestling, when it's about a match, you take away Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, what do you have?
Yeah, and like I don't even like trying to get on to knocking Kevin Nash as far as his own career because it's like different era.
He did what he did.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that Kevin Nash is aware that like if he was in this era doing what he did, it would not work and he would have to adjust accordingly to the standards of now. He was smart enough to recognize that, right? So same with Hall, same for all them dudes in the clique, right? I just find it weird that it's like the people that were using Nash to dunk on Ospreay
It's just
is
all
just
about the
like,
money, and it's all about
it was
a
for me.
capitalistic
It was
way to
more
view
it was more the
everything.
old guy says a funny little cute thing about the new generation, and then it turns into like a bunch of fans shitting on the new generation. And like, I'm just tired of seeing that particular brand of criticism. Is like all the young guys all fucking suck, and all the guys that were back in the day that like even when they're back in the day when I grew up watching, I didn't think were like that good of wrestlers are like. That was it. That was when it was real. And I'm like, gotta tell you, it was never real. They're all running ropes.
Yep. And it's like it's such a mind fuck of like people wanting to reject what's in real time to them because they can't process history being made in front of them. Like history to them is something that already happened. There's something that they load up on their Peacock and they pull it up and it was like, damn, that's how wrestling was. But they never really get to enjoy or even contextualize how wrestling is. And I feel like that's like the argument, like that's like one of the square reasons I wanted to start One Nation Radio. Like when I was telling James, I was like, yo, somebody has to be the new voices. Someone has to like put a context to like the people that are here right now, because Dave's not going to be here forever. Wade Keller's not going to be here forever. And I'm not saying that we'll ever get to that level or anything like that.
I don't want to be a reporter. You see, look, we're talking like about Dave Meltzer right fucking now in a bad way.
People go insane with him, right? But like there are more people that have the ability to analyze on a smart level like what we're seeing. Like, and I don't see like they're like I don't see a gatekeeper for that. Like I feel like we can do that. And I feel like our role in this is to recognize what happened previously with Nash, and like what Josh is saying, why drawing and all that stuff is important, and different eras, different styles and stuff like that. But like people have to be vocal about this style and this level of wrestling that we're seeing right now, just as passionately and vehemently as they argue for business metrics and just like the paint by number stuff. Like for a long time, Observer Hall of Fame is like people could just get in just off of drawing, but it's like, all right, we never seen how did they wrestle or whatever. Oh, it's not really about that. But then I gotta watch Tomohiro Ishii year after year, one of the greatest wrestlers I've ever seen, like, with my two eyes, and he's like, I don't want to say he's struggling to get in, right? He's actually doing way better than anybody ever thought he could based on how great he is. Like, because obviously he never drew and never did all these things, but it's like, well, I'm tired of talking about what people didn't do. I want to know what they did. And that's like the crux of this Will Ospreay thing. It's like, bro, this guy's fucking breaking his body right now in the middle of his prime, peaking almost as a performer. And it's like, all we can think to do is tell this guy what he's not and to tear him down and all this stuff. And it's just like, it's mind-boggling to me that people just want to continue to participate in this. And it's just a rejection of them not being able to process what's in front of their eyes right now.
Yeah, and the thing that's funny for me is like, I think the week before I basically detailed you like what his next year to year and a half is going to be, and like he's set up to have like this all-time run, and that is going to elevate him to that status of people want to buy his merch and all that other shit. And then like Kevin Nash does this, and it's like, bro, this is the wrong time to do this, because like a year from now he's gonna come dunk on your ass after this man like made events a pay-per-view that has like 150,000 buys. It's a good chance to fucking happen.
Like when he puts a bill or whatever the fuck his royalty check statement says, and he gets it, and he like dunks on Kevin Nash with that, and that shit says like, in a quarter, that shit says like $500,000 or some shit Rich, like that. Like that's gonna be.
But you know what'll happen. But Rich, you'll know what'll happen. They'll say it's fake. Because they don't like the dude, so it don't matter. Like the only thing that's gonna change is when this man shows up like and goes straight to the main roster in WWE. That's the only way this changes. And
then what changes? The wrestling.
right,
gets
and that's
worse.
right. And that's the thing that's funny to me is like when people were doing this with Omega, people were doing this Young Bucks, and all this stuff is like, bro, do y'all think that like Vince or Triple H / Vince or whoever is like they're not going to back up the Breeze truck for to get this person when they become a free agent? Like what do you think Will Ospreay is going to command in free agency if he gets there between New Japan, AEW, and WWE? He's going to make at minimum $750,000 or $750,000
And
at
that's
least.
if something goes horribly wrong.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like he is going to command top dollar, and like if he wants to maximize
No
his dollars,
hit
he'll end up in WWE. Go ahead.
Top dollar no hit roll.
Oh, you stupid! I didn't even mean like that, but yeah, like it's gonna like. So I don't understand.